I was staring at Section 12, Paragraph 3 of my employment contract when Preston Holloway fired me. 20 months salary if terminated without cause. That's $380,000 he just handed me because he was too arrogant to read the fine print. His father Clifford wrote that clause 15 years ago when he hired me. Insurance, he'd called it. Turns out he knew his son better than I thought. My name is Bennett Torres. I'm 52 years old, and I just became a very expensive mistake. We don't need old-timers like you holding us back, Preston said that Tuesday morning, not even looking up from his laptop, like I was some piece of outdated equipment he could write off. I'd been chief operating officer at Holloway Aerospace Manufacturing in Cleveland, Ohio for 15 years. Not the type to make speeches or demand attention, just the steady hand that kept precision aerospace components flowing to half the defense contractors in the country. I smiled slightly, nodded once, stood up. My chair scraped across the floor. Preston still hadn't looked up. I walked out and cleared my desk while the younger engineers avoided eye contact. Some of them I'd hired fresh out of college, trained personally on 5-axis CNC machines and FAA certification protocols. Nobody said a word as I packed 15 years into a cardboard box. Clifford Holloway had built the company 38 years ago with his own hands. Started with a single lathe in his garage, built it into a $45 million business manufacturing titanium turbine housings and aluminum actuator mounts for aerospace. He'd hand-picked me to run operations when his health started failing. "You're the only one I trust with tolerances this tight," he'd said. "We work to plus 0.005 inches. No room for error when you're building components for aircraft." Now his son Preston, 31 years old with an MBA from Stanford and 3 years living in San Francisco's startup world, had decided the company needed disruption and data-driven optimization. Code for getting rid of anyone who remembered how things worked before spreadsheets replaced experience. I carried that box to my truck and sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel. Through the windshield I could see the production floor. Machines I'd kept running for 15 years. People I'd trained. All about to learn what happens when institutional knowledge walks out the door. I didn't slam the door or screech out of the parking lot, just turned the key and headed home to call Harold Finch, a lawyer friend who'd been waiting for a case this straightforward. I'd never been flashy. Married 26 years to my wife Sarah before cancer took her 3 years ago. Raised 2 kids who were doing well. Nathan in Boston with an engineering firm, Claire working as a nurse in Chicago. My life had been built around consistency and reliability, the same approach I'd brought to aerospace manufacturing. Clifford had been more than just a boss. My own father had disappeared when I was 10, leaving my mother to raise 4 kids on a secretary's salary. Clifford took a chance on me back when I was 37, coming off a layoff from a dying automotive plant with nothing but hands-on experience and a community college degree in mechanical engineering. "Degrees don't build aircraft parts," Clifford said during my interview. "You need guys who know what they're doing." He promoted me to COO within 3 years. We weren't the types to go fishing or hit the bar after work, but there was respect between us. When Sarah got sick, he rearranged my schedule without me asking, ensuring I could take her to every treatment. Family first, always. The first warning came about a year ago, when Preston started showing up at meetings. Fresh out of business school, carrying a leather portfolio, talking about synergy and market disruption. I'd catch Clifford wincing at his suggestions. Proposals that would have gutted our quality control or outsourced precision work we'd always done in-house. But Clifford never contradicted Preston publicly, just quietly fixed things afterwards. "He needs to learn," Clifford told me one afternoon. "Some lessons can't come from books." The second warning was when Clifford announced his retirement 3 months ago. "Heart problems," he said, though I suspected it was more about Preston's pressure. He looked defeated when he handed me the updated organization chart with Preston's name at the top. "I made him promise to keep the core team intact," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "The experience you all bring is what makes this place work." I just nodded, but something in my gut tightened, the way Clifford wouldn't look at me directly, like he knew what was coming but couldn't say it. The morning after my termination, I sat at my kitchen table reviewing the contract with Harold when my phone rang. Clifford's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer. But 15 years of respect doesn't vanish overnight. "Bennett," his voice sounded strained. "What the hell happened yesterday? Ask your son." I did. He said you were resistant to the new direction, said you were undermining his authority with the floor team. I didn't say anything, just let the silence sit there. Clifford knew me better than that. You're going to file, aren't you? Already have. Harold Finch is handling it. Clifford exhaled heavily. I told him to look at the contracts. Told him before I stepped down there were protections in place. A pause. He cleaned house yesterday. You, Russell, Angela, 12 people, everyone over 50. My jaw tightened. Russell Malone had been our head of engineering for 14 years. Angela Lawson ran quality control like it was her personal kingdom, both irreplaceable. Is that the direction you wanted, Clifford? Clearing out everyone who built the place with you? You know it's not, but I gave him control. It's his to run now. I heard voices in the background, one of them distinctly Preston's, sharp and demanding. I've got to go. The call ended abruptly. I set the phone down and stared at the contract. Harold had highlighted it in yellow. It's airtight, he'd said. They'll either pay or we'll take them to court where we'll win, and they'll pay my fees too. I decided right then. This wasn't about the money. It was about value, about recognizing what experience brings to the table, about respecting the foundation others built before you decided to tear down the house. I walked to the window overlooking my backyard. The maple tree Sarah and I planted 23 years ago was 40 feet tall now. We'd nursed it through 2 lightning strikes and a disease that nearly killed it. Patched it up, supported it, gave it what it needed to survive. I picked up my phone and started making calls. Russell Malone answered on the second ring. Bennett. I was going to call you. You get severance? A year. Not as good as yours, but Harold says my contract's solid too. He paused. Preston wants me to sign an NDA. Can't talk about proprietary processes for 5 years. 40 years in aerospace engineering, and suddenly I can't talk about my own work. You signing it? Don't have much choice. Got a granddaughter starting college next year. I made 11 more calls that day. Angela Lawson. Jason Wright, our CNC programmer who'd quit 2 weeks ago after Preston cut his department's budget by 30%. Sam Brenner, our quality inspector whose daughter needed surgery and just lost his health insurance. By evening, I'd talked to everyone Preston had pushed out. 7 of them wanted to know what came next. The other 5 just wanted to survive. 3 days after being fired, I sat across from Preston and Holloway's corporate attorney in a downtown office. Harold Finch beside me, his weathered briefcase open, my contract displayed on the table. This is ridiculous, Preston said, arms crossed. He still hadn't looked at the document. We're implementing a new direction. That's cause enough. Harold pointed to the highlighted clause. His voice stayed calm, patient. Termination without cause, as defined in Appendix C, requires severance equal to 20 months' salary, approximately $380,000 in Mr. Torres's case. The corporate lawyer, young guy named Justin, scanned the contract. His face went pale. Mr. Holloway, the definition of cause here is quite specific. Performance issues, ethical violations, criminal acts. He was resistant to change, Preston interrupted. That's insubordination. Where's the documentation? Harold asked. Written warnings? Performance improvement plans? Appendix C requires a documented pattern, not a single instance. Justin flipped through a thin folder. Found nothing. Preston's jaw clenched. The vein in his temple started throbbing. Fine. We'll pay him a few months' severance and move on. 20 months, Harold corrected. As stipulated. That's insane. We'll offer 6 months. Take it or leave it. I stayed silent, watching him. In that moment, he reminded me of his father, the same stubborn jaw. But Clifford's stubbornness had built something. Preston's seemed aimed at tearing down. Harold closed his briefcase. Then we'll proceed with legal action. Discovery should be fun. We'll ask why you fired 12 employees over 50 on the same day. Why none of them had documentation. Why? Before you make threats, Preston cut him off. Looking at me now, you should know we're prepared to fight this. You'll be tied up in court for years. I've got time. And we'll make it known throughout the industry that you're difficult. Good luck finding another position at your age. That's when Clifford appeared in the doorway. I hadn't seen him since his retirement party. He looked thinner, grayer, but his eyes were still sharp. Preston. A word. We're in the middle of something, Dad. Now. Wasn't asking. They stepped outside. Through the glass wall I could see them arguing. Clifford gestured emphatically. Preston shook his head, crossed his arms, then uncrossed them. His shoulders slumped. When they came back, Preston wouldn't look at me. "Justin," Clifford said, "prepare the severance agreement as written in the contract." "Dad." "Not now." Clifford turned to me. "I apologize, Bennett. This isn't how I wanted things to end." I nodded once. As Harold and I stood to leave, Preston stepped in front of me. "This isn't over. I'll be reviewing all vendor relationships. Any company that hires you can forget about doing business with Holloway." Clifford went pale but said nothing. I nodded again. I'd already made a call the day before, to Gerald Weaver, owner of Titan Aerospace Solutions, a man who'd been trying to hire me for years. "You're right about one thing," I told Preston. "It isn't over." The $380,000 hit my account a week later. After taxes, $247,000. More money than I'd ever seen at once. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. That same afternoon, I met Russell at a diner halfway between our homes, 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. Just us and 2 truckers at the counter. Russell stirred his coffee without drinking it. "What's your play here, Bennett?" I slid a business card across the table. "Gerald Weaver, Titan Aerospace Solutions. He's looking for a consultant, someone who understands precision hydraulics, no NDA required." Russell stared at the card. "Holloway would sue me. Not if you're advising on general industry standards. Nothing proprietary about that." He pocketed the card slowly. "This isn't like you." Stirring the pot, I leaned forward. "I'm partnering with Gerald. He's bringing me in to head up a new division. Specialized aerospace components. Small batch, high-margin custom work. The stuff Preston thinks is a waste of time." Russell's eyebrows went up. "The custom work Clifford always said was our future, and Preston's killing it to focus on mass production. Thinks he can compete with overseas manufacturers on price. He can't. Not with our labor costs." "I know. So does Clifford." Russell studied me. "Angela told me Preston's been liquidating equipment. The specialized CNC machinery Clifford bought last year, sold half of it. That's over $3 million in equipment," I said. "At auction prices, he probably got $450,000. He's stripping the company." We sat in silence. Not just our jobs at stake anymore. 150 employees still at Holloway. Clifford's life's work. "What are you going to do?" Russell finally asked. "Build something better. Something that respects both the past and the future." I paused. "The position's yours if you want it." Russell didn't answer right away, just looked at that business card on the table between us. "Let me think about it," he said, but I could see it in his eyes. He'd already decided. 2 months after my firing, I stood in Gerald Weaver's office reviewing architectural plans for the new facility. The converted warehouse on Cleveland's east side would house Cornerstone Precision Aerospace. Our venture. Specialized components for defense and commercial aviation. "Machine shops confirmed," Gerald said, spreading supplier contracts across his desk. "They can deliver the first 5 units by next month. CNC programmer starts Monday." "Jason Wright," I said. Preston cut his budget, doubled his own salary. Jason walked. Gerald whistled low. "How many does that make?" 7. "Russell signed on last week. Angela's staying at Holloway until her retirement, but she's feeding us information. Why would she risk that?" I thought about Angela, 55 years old, 16 years running that QC lab. Preston had called her methods outdated in a staff meeting, in front of her whole team. Because she watched Preston sell off $3 million in equipment for $450,000, I said. Because she's seen him cut corners on quality protocols. Because she knows what's coming. My phone buzzed. Text from Angela. A photo of an internal memo. I showed it to Gerald. Production delays, quality control failures, 3 major clients threatening to pull contracts. One of them was NASA, a $12 million contract for actuator housings. Gerald adjusted his reading glasses. The brain drain's hitting them already. I pocketed my phone. No satisfaction in it. Holloway still employed 150 families I'd known for years. People with mortgages, kids in college, parents in nursing homes. "We should reach out to Midwest Manufacturing," I said. "One of Holloway's biggest aerospace clients. Let them know we'll be operational in 60 days. Already scheduled. Their purchasing manager wants to talk next week." I walked to the window. Below, workers were installing equipment on the warehouse floor, the bones of something new. My phone rang. Clifford Holloway. Gerald nodded and stepped out, closing the door behind him. Bennett. Clifford's voice sounded tired, defeated. We need to talk. I'm listening. A heavy sigh. I know what you're doing. The new company. The Holloway employees you're hiring. I said nothing. I'm not calling to ask you to stop. I'm calling to ask for your help. That caught me off guard. What kind of help? The kind that might save what's left of my company. Preston's been selling off assets, cutting corners on quality. The board's concerned. So am I. Why tell me this? Because you're the only one who knows every part of the operation, the only one who might see a path forward. He paused. And because I should have listened to you months ago when you warned me he wasn't ready. I closed my eyes, thought about all those years working alongside Clifford, building something we were both proud of, something that employed hundreds of people who trusted us to make good decisions. What exactly are you asking, Clifford? Come to my house tonight, 7 p.m. Bring Russell if he's willing. The board wants to meet, to discuss options. Options? Including a change in leadership. I looked down at the warehouse floor, at our small operation, at the future I'd been building from the ashes. I'll be there, but I'm not promising anything. Fair enough. Relief in his voice. And Bennett? Thank you for still taking my calls. That evening, Russell and I drove to Clifford's house in the suburbs, a sprawling ranch on 2 acres. I'd been there twice before, once for a company barbecue, once when Sarah was sick and Clifford's wife brought over meals for a week. Clifford met us at the door. 3 board members sat in his living room. I recognized 2 of them. Helen Petrov, former VP of a major defense contractor. Michael Torres, no relation, who'd made his money in aerospace logistics. Bennett, Russell, Clifford gestured to the couch. Thank you for coming. Helen spoke first. We'll be direct. Preston's leadership is failing. Revenue's down 23% in 3 months. We've lost 2 major contracts. NASA's threatening to pull out. Quality issues are piling up. He's also liquidated $1.5 million in specialized equipment, Michael added, against board advice. We suspect he's moving money. I glanced at Clifford. He looked away. Where's Preston now? I asked. Doesn't know about this meeting, Helen said. We're exploring options before taking action. You want me to come back? We want you to take over, she corrected. But there's a complication. Preston still has operational control. Clifford maintains 51% ownership, but he gave Preston full authority when he retired. Clifford finally spoke. I can revoke that authority. Call a vote. But I need the board's support, and I need to know you're willing to step in. Russell leaned forward. What about the people he fired? The 12 of us? We'd bring back anyone who wants to return, Helen said. Full back pay for the time lost. And we'd want Russell as head of engineering again. I stood and walked to the window. Outside, Clifford's maple trees swayed in the evening breeze. Older than mine, stronger. I'm building something with Gerald Weaver, I said, not turning around. Cornerstone Precision. We've already signed 7 employees. We're operational in 60 days. Silence behind me. What if we merged? Clifford asked quietly. I turned. Merged? Holloway Aerospace and Cornerstone Precision. You'd run operations. Russell would head engineering. Preston would be out. Gerald's my partner. He'd need a stake. He'd get one, Helen said. We'd structure it as an acquisition. Holloway absorbs Cornerstone, but you and Gerald get board seats, equity positions. I looked at Russell. He nodded slowly. I need to talk to Gerald first, I said, and I want something clear. Preston's not just demoted. He's gone. Completely. Clifford's face tightened, but he nodded. Understood. Give me 48 hours, I said. As Russell and I drove back, he finally spoke. You going to do it? Depends what Gerald says. But yeah, I think so. Why? You could build Cornerstone into something good. Walk away clean. I thought about those 150 employees still at Holloway, about Clifford's legacy crumbling, about Preston stripping 38 years of work for parts. Because some things are worth saving, I said, even when they're broken. Gerald Weaver sat across from me in his office the next morning, reading through the merger proposal Clifford's lawyers had sent over. "They're offering us 15% equity in the combined company," he said. "Board seats for both of us. You'd run operations. I'd oversee the transition, then step back in 2 years like we planned. What do you think?" Gerald set down the papers. He was 64, broad-shouldered, with calloused hands from 40 years in manufacturing. "I think we could build Cornerstone into something good on our own. Take 5 years, but we'd get there. But Holloway's already got the infrastructure, the client relationships, the reputation, what's left of it. We'd be starting from scratch." He leaned back. "And I think you want to save what Clifford built. Am I wrong?" I thought about it. About Preston dismantling 38 years of work. About 150 families watching their jobs disappear because a 31-year-old with an MBA thought he knew better. "No, you're not wrong. Then let's do it. But we do it right. Preston's out. Full operational control goes to you, and we protect our people. The 7 who signed with us get positions at the merged company." I nodded. "I'll call Clifford." 3 weeks later, we called the emergency board meeting. Preston didn't know what was coming. Clifford had kept him in the dark, saying only that the board wanted a quarterly review. I arrived early with Gerald and Russell. Helen Petrov was already there, along with Michael Torres and 2 other board members. Clifford sat at the head of the table, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Preston walked in at 9 a.m. sharp, carrying his laptop and a leather portfolio. He stopped when he saw me. "What's he doing here?" "Sit down, Preston," Clifford said quietly. "I'm not sitting through a meeting with someone we fired for." "Sit down." Preston sat. His jaw was tight. That vein in his temple started pulsing. Helen began. "This board has reviewed the company's performance over the last 3 months. Revenue is down 23%. We've lost the NASA contract, worth $12 million annually. Raytheon and Boeing have both issued quality complaints, and we've discovered unauthorized asset liquidation totaling $1.5 million. Preston leaned forward. "All of that is part of the restructuring plan I presented. Short-term pain for long-term efficiency gains. The asset sales freed up capital for..." "For what?" Michael interrupted. "We've reviewed the financials. That capital didn't go into operations." "Where is it, Preston?" Preston's face reddened. "I don't appreciate the accusation. I've been transparent with all expenditures." "You bought a condo in Miami," Clifford said quietly. 3 weeks ago. Cash purchase. $890,000. The room went silent. Preston stared at his father. "That's personal." "It has nothing to do with..." "You used company equipment sales to fund personal real estate," Helen said. "That's embezzlement. We could involve law enforcement." "It wasn't embezzlement. I took a distribution. I'm entitled..." "You're entitled to nothing," Clifford said. His voice was steady now, stronger. "You own 23% of this company. You're not majority owner, and as of this moment, your operational authority is revoked." Preston stood up. "You can't do this. I've been running this company for 3 months. I've made tough decisions that needed to be made. Cutting dead weight, modernizing operations. You're all too scared of change to see..." "Sit down," I said. Preston turned to me. "You don't have any authority here. You were fired. You're lucky we didn't sue you for..." "Sit down, and I'll tell you what happens next." Something in my voice made him stop. He sat. I slid a folder across the table. "That's a detailed analysis of every decision you've made in 3 months. The 12 employees you fired, they had an average of 18 years experience. Combined knowledge of every system in this facility. You replaced them with 4 people who've never worked in aerospace." I opened to the next page. "The equipment you sold? Specialized 5-axis CNC machines for custom components. The high-margin work your father spent 3 years developing relationships to secure. You sold $1.5 million in equipment for $450,000, then used that money to buy a condo." Preston's face had gone from red to pale. "The NASA contract you lost? Quality failures on actuator housings, tolerance errors. You know why?" I leaned forward. "Because you cut the QC budget by 40%. Angela Lawson's team was running 3 inspections per batch. You ordered them to run 1. The parts failed stress testing." I closed the folder. "You didn't modernize anything. You stripped this company for parts to fund your lifestyle." "This is bullshit," Preston said, but his voice had lost its edge. "I was trying to save money. make the company more efficient. You old-timers just can't accept that your way doesn't work anymore. My way, I said, kept this company profitable for 38 years. Your way lost $12 million in 3 months. Clifford spoke. The board has voted, 6-1. Your operational authority is terminated. Bennett Torres will take over as COO, effective immediately. Gerald Weaver joins the board as part of a merger with Cornerstone Precision Aerospace. You'll retain your 23% ownership, but you have no management role. You can't do this. Preston looked at his father. Dad, this is our company, our family legacy. You're going to hand it over to him? I'm saving what's left of it, Clifford said. I gave you a chance. You weren't ready. Maybe someday you will be. But not now. Preston stood slowly. Fine. Keep your dying company. I'll start my own. Take clients with me. We'll see who's right. You're welcome to try, I said, but you'll need to compete on merit, not your father's reputation. Preston grabbed his laptop and walked out. The door slammed behind him. The room stayed quiet for a moment. Then Helen spoke. We'll announce the merger tomorrow. Bennett, we need you to start immediately. There's a lot of damage to undo. I nodded. Russell comes back as head of engineering. Angela stays as QC director, and the other 10 people Preston fired get their jobs back if they want them. Agreed, Clifford said. Over the next 6 months, we rebuilt. Russell brought back 8 of the 10 fired employees. Jason Wright returned to run the CNC programming department. Angela's QC team went back to 3 inspections per batch. Quality failures dropped to almost 0. Gerald and I recovered 3 of the specialized CNC machines Preston had sold, bought them back at a premium, but worth it. We landed 2 new defense contracts, won back the NASA contract after 4 months of proving our quality standards. Preston tried to start a competing firm. It lasted 7 months before he ran out of money. No investors wanted to back him after word got out about the Miami condo and the equipment sales. 18 months after the merger, I stood on the production floor watching a young engineer I'd hired mill a titanium turbine housing. Tolerance held at plus 0.003 inches, better than our old standard. Clifford joined me on the observation platform, leaning on his cane. His health hadn't improved much, but his spirits had. Watching the company thrive again had been good for him. Quarterly numbers came in, he said, handing me a report. Best in 5 years. Revenue up 41%. 3 new patents filed. Employee retention at 94%. I scanned the figures. We'd come a long way. Preston called yesterday, Clifford said quietly. I raised an eyebrow. From Miami, his startup failed. He's broke, asked if I'd invest in another venture. What did you tell him? Told him to come back to Cleveland, start at the bottom, learn the business the right way, work the shop floor for 2 years, then we'd talk about management. And? Clifford smiled slightly. He hung up on me. But he called back this morning, asked if the offer still stood. Below us, the production floor hummed with activity. Machines running, people working, the rhythm of a company that knew what it was doing. You going to let him back? I asked. If he's serious, if he's willing to actually learn. Clifford paused. I built this company for him, I wanted to leave him something that would last. Instead, I nearly destroyed it by giving him something he hadn't earned. Some men need a longer runway, I said. Clifford nodded. Maybe he'll land eventually, but he's got to do the work first. We stood in comfortable silence, watching the company we'd both helped build continue to grow. Some lessons are expensive, but the ones that stick, the ones that change how we see the world, those are always worth the price. My phone buzzed. Text from Nathan, my son in Boston. Dad, my company's hiring a new COO. Told them to call you for advice on what to look for. Hope that's okay. I smiled and typed back, more than okay. Tell them experience matters, every time.